Yep.
All right, folks. Hey, welcome back to another edition of Ripping Lips with Marty Lawson. I'm your host, Marty Lawson. All right, so on the show today, we have David Geary from DAC Baits. He makes soft plastics. I'm a big supporter of him. He's also my fishing partner in tournaments with Outcast Bass Fishing of Virginia, the E-Tournament series, where we go out and use his boat, which he's right behind him there. And we placed fourth place twice. We got to get out of that habit of placing fourth. But yeah, David pours these soft baits. I want to give him some props, and I'm going to ask him a couple questions here. So David, how you doing tonight?
Hey, doing good. And yourself, Marty?
I am wonderful. Glad to have you on. We talk on the phone all the time and all that type of stuff. And of course we fish together, but I wanted to get you out there to the rest of the community. So a couple questions. Understand you're active duty military out there in Dahlgren, and you're doing your own soft baits. Where did you start fishing at? What got you into fishing to begin with?
So I've always been fishing since I was a little kid. My grandfather, he's the one that got me into it originally. From about the time I was 3-4 years old, we used to do trout and catfish up in Pennsylvania, and then we'd do catfish down in the San Antonio, Texas area. And then I started getting into bass fishing, and right about 2015, ironically, up here in Northern Virginia, I was stationed at Fort Belvoir. Started fishing a lot of the ponds up around the Woodbridge, Fairfax County area, Prince William, Quantico, and obviously the Potomac area. And then started getting into the tournaments a little bit every now and then. Got out to Washington State. Of course, bass isn't a huge thing out in Washington State. They're known more for the trout and the steelhead and everything. They're salmon. But really got into some decent bass fishing up in some of the lakes in Washington State, and then got back over here, started getting back into the tournaments, and just been having fun with it.
All right, so understand, and yeah, it is kind of strange when you talk about bass fishing in Washington State. I had been out there a few times and got my steelhead and all that type of stuff. Never went bass fishing out there, but now you're back in Virginia. You're messing with the tournaments a little bit, and so you're pouring your own soft plastics now. What got you into doing that? What was the drive behind doing that?
So ironically, it was the off season, and it was my wife, of all people, it was my wife who decided that I needed a hobby. And she goes, "You spend all this money on plastics." She goes, "You have to drive over an hour and change just to find what you want, because it's about an hour or so from the Dahlgren area down to Bass Pro around the Ashland area." And she goes, "Let's find something that you can share with our daughter." Now, our daughter's 7 years old, and she has a huge creative side onto it. So we started small. We started getting into a couple of the small hand pours, like the trick worms, the Neds. Then we started getting in a little bit of the injection stuff. So crawls, grubs, Senko style baits, that kind of stuff. And then we just kind of went from there, and people started using them. We put them out and let people try them. We were using them. And it saved me a ton of money, because now, instead of having to hope with the supply chain issues that Bass Pro has, or Dick's, or Field and Stream, or even the small stores, that they have what we're looking for. If I know that we need a color, I can make it right in the house. If I want a drop shot, I can make that Robo style in the exact color that I want.
That's one of the things I mentioned in one of my first videos that I did, was that I want to support the local guys, because like I said, I can grab this guy off the shelf anywhere I want, but true to form, I said, in particular, the color that placed us fourth place in our first tournament that we did, you know, we were looking at different colors, and all of a sudden that the grape with red flake hit. Now, I said in my video that you can't just call these big companies and tell them what color you want and expect them to do it for you. But I can call someone like you and say, hey, David, I need bright yellow with pink flake in it. And you'd be like, really? But yeah, okay, I can do it. How many do you want? And when do you need them? And that's the thing that I really try and key on is these local guys will do what you want. You know, if they want a particular Ned, or I mean, how many different baits are you pouring now?
I've got about 8 or 9 different ones between the trick worms, the crawls, beaver bugs, 4-inch paddle tails, the robo style 5-inch stick baits, the chub grubs. There's about 9 different ones.
Okay, so true to form, if someone contacts you and wants a particular color, you're going to do your best to try and match that color that they want and get it to them. Is that correct?
Absolutely. And I'm going to be honest with the person too. If it is something that I can't do, I'm going to tell them right up front. And, you know, maybe I reach out to another small company that I know. You know, there's quite a few good folk up, especially here in the Northern Virginia area, that may have more expertise on doing something, or they have something different that might fit them a little better. It's kind of one of those, you know, you help somebody else out because down the road, they're probably going to do the same for you.
Right. So, you know, I interviewed the 2 guys from Bent Rod Fishing, and they do their hand painted crankbaits, and they were talking about that community, hand painted baits, and how they can just ask people randomly, you know, about a technique or something like that, and everyone's open. Are you finding the same thing with soft plastics, where people are pretty open about what they do and how they do it, and, you know, transferring business between people and making sure everyone, I mean, are you in a good community right now with that?
Oh, absolutely. Like I feel, especially like some of these small, the Fredericksburg Fishing Flea Market. That was the first one I did, and you know, just seeing a lot of the craft that a lot of these other small tackle companies were doing. You know, we exchanged some back and forth with some, you know, especially with some of these guys that have been in there have been doing this for years and years and years. We've only been doing this probably about 7 months, and while we've come a long way since starting this up last October, it's now like we're evolving, and I wouldn't be where I was at, besides obviously the family side, if it wasn't from learning and getting tips and tricks from some of these other folks in the community.
So did you watch a lot of YouTube on how to do this stuff also?
Yes.
Do you have any favorites that you would recommend to people that wanted to get started doing this?
World's Worst Fishing. This guy has literally done
Is that the guy out in Oklahoma?
Yes.
All right.
This guy has literally done so many different things with his plastics, where he's using crayons to color and just things that you wouldn't even think about him using. He's turned around and he's done it. And that's where, honestly, I've learned a lot of some of my tips and tricks from. And
Okay.
you know what? They worked. And I never thought that they would have.
So, I mean, now you don't have a website, right? You just have Facebook where
Correct.
they can look you up on?
Yep.
Right.
We post everything that we do up on Facebook. Obviously, just like anybody else, if you ask me to make you a bait, I may post it up there, but I'm not going to say who I did it. Like that's no one's business, but that person. I don't keep a record of it. And you know, we post everything. We always have a special of the week. So this past week we had we had one going, and I'm going to be posting on Monday. Every Monday is when we put these up. So normally they rotate amongst all the baits that we have, and you know, we knock them down about 50 to 75 cents. Of course, if you're a member of certain organizations, we throw 10% on off your normal order. And we try to save people money where we can.
Right. Now, I also understand you got a display in there, Catfish Kelly's. That's here in well, it's in between King George and Fredericksburg on Route 3, if anyone's interested. You have a display there, and I the last time I went in there, I noticed they had, as soon as you walk in that door from their restaurant, it's all local bait makers I saw. And I think that's fantastic. I'm going to get down there and I'm going to actually do an interview with them there at the store, talking about, you guys that make the stuff. I mean, they have other stuff in there. I think they might have some Z-Man and some Zoom and things like that. But I was really impressed that they had that whole section. It was nothing but handmade stuff from local guys. I thought that was really cool. So your packaging, now I know you've improved your packaging over time, and just for the people that are out there, David and I, he started throwing stuff at me, and this is how it first came. Is he'd sit there and he'd write green pumpkin, that's a trick worm, and he'd throw it in a baggie and he'd bring it to me. And then he got a little bit more creative and he created little labels. This one got wet, of course, because, I used it. But now you got stickers on there with your logo and your business card.
Yep, we can actually show, here's one. We actually just did this one up last night. So we've got, obviously who doesn't have a pegboard and like to hang their stuff up. Good quality bags, they're sealed straight through. We have a nice little label on it. And that, it's a continuing process. And we always encourage feedback, because that's the only way that we get better with anything, is if we get constructive criticism and feedback so we can improve that product.
Right. And I know that you support Outcast Bass Fishing Virginia. You're always willing to give a couple of bags away for door prizes or whatever the case may be. And I think getting out there for you and doing something like this, a video, getting it out to my subscribers, that you're available. So Facebook, I know you said you have something on there where it's like an e-form where they can fill that out and send that to you. Does it also have like your contact information, like email and phone number and things like that? Or do you just want to stick with the email first, let them email you? Is it DAC Baits at what? Tell me what your email address is.
gmail.com. So it's the DAC Baits at gmail.com. And if people have any questions, they can always send a message. If I'm out with the family or I'm at work, I'll get to the message. Normally, depending on the time of day, it might be a 5-minute turnaround to get an answer. It might be a couple hours, but normally people will hear back by the end of the day, what's going on. If they know, hey, I want, say, green pumpkin red flake, like just something normal that all of us use. You can just send that on there and we'll, just email it on that form. I'll go ahead and type up your invoice, get that off to you. Just verify everything's good. And your turnaround is normally just a couple short days, unless I literally have it made right then and there, then I can have it off the very next day.
Okay. So order form is quick. Customer service is good. Shipping is rapid. You get the stuff out to the people. I mean, I don't see how anyone could knock that. You can go to these big tackle I'm wearing Tackle Warehouse. You can go to these places, but a lot of times right now, especially with the whole supply chain, and I'm looking at stuff and you can't get stuff right now. Because of what's going on with the supply chain and the stuff coming over from overseas and coming here. But someone like you is like, what do you need? I'll make it for you. I'll get it out the door as fast as possible. So, especially custom colors. I think that is the best part of this is, like you and I think you and I really keyed in on that grape with red flake. I mean, by the way, I need more of those trick worms, grape with red flake. Yes, sir. Thank you very much. I need some. So, I just think across the board, people can come to you and say, this is what I'm looking for. This is what I need. And you can get it to them. I think faster than these big companies can. And it's cheaper. And I think you guys are doing a great job. And I think everyone on my channel that sees this needs to go out and support you guys, especially you. I got yourself, and I also heard a rumor that you were teaming up or possibly teaming up with someone else, does spinner baits or something like that. Is that true?
So we support. It's not a team up, but we definitely encourage. Like there's a local bait maker right here in King George. Actually, it's called Gray Goat Lures. He creates some really good spinner baits. He's got some chatter baits, and I get some of my stuff made through him. And he's invited me over. He's like, hey, anytime you want to come over, let's make what you want. If you want a Colorado or a specific size willow blade with your stuff, hey, let's go. Let's get you made up in that. So, it's a big like family. Of course, everyone's competing against each other for like that business and that, but it's not cutthroat like you see with a lot of other things.
Right. So I guess, in saying team up, it's more like just a casual partnership where you can work together and do different things. And, if you decide to say, hey, Gray Goat Lures, hey, do you want to work something out where I can provide you some trailers for some of your baits and do swaps and things like that? Al from Gray Goat Lures, I got to get him on the show also. But it just reiterates there are people out there that make the stuff that you want locally. So, like I said, we're gonna get Gray Goat on, we're gonna get MES Baits on, we're gonna get Nova Lua Company on, we're gonna get what's his name? Drag Set Fishing, AJ. We're gonna get him on so that there's a variety of people that these people can get. Really, all the baits that we use here in Northern Virginia, you can get through the local vendors like yourself and the guys that make the spinner baits and chatter baits and hand painted baits and all that type of stuff. It's all out there. All we have to do is knock on your door and say, hey, this is what I want. So I really think that's fantastic. Let's see, what else can I go over with you, Gary? Personal best, biggest bass. What is it?
Biggest bass I've had up to date is I've pulled a 5.31. That was when I was stationed down in Norfolk. Biggest bass recently caught on a DAC stick bait, 5-inch stick bait, just under 8 pounds. And that was pulled out of Chickahominy River about 2 weeks ago during a tournament.
Really? Very cool. And that was something that you supplied to someone else that
Yep.
did this?
Yep. Actually,
Wow.
a member of Outcast was also fishing another tournament, him and his girlfriend, and they had bought a fair amount of stuff from me. And he just happened to hit me up one night on Facebook and goes, hey, dude, he goes, look at this picture. It was pulled off of one of your baits.
There you go. Do you have that picture up on your Facebook page?
It's up on the DAC Facebook page.
Perfect. Yeah, I'm definitely gonna link that in the description of the video below, because I want people to get a hold of you and we want you to keep your business going and keep doing what you're doing and I think it's just a benefit to everyone because one, you're a bass fisherman, two, you fish tournaments, and three, you're pouring this stuff that can be custom. However, the other thing, Gary, that I think is very important to the people that I bring on the show is that you're willing to give advice. You know, you're not one of these guys that if someone calls you and says, "Hey, I want to get my son's getting into fishing and I'm wondering, if you could help me out and select a few things that I could buy for him." You're the type of person that's going to sit there and say, "Yeah, okay, where is he going to go fishing? Does he want to catch bass? This time of year, I would recommend this, that, or the other thing." And I think communication is key, so that I don't want people to be afraid to contact you and ask for advice also. I know you personally. I think you're a great guy, and I think you're going to be able to provide your knowledge out there to other people. And you and I fish tournaments. One of these days, I'm going to record one of our tournaments. But I just think knowledge. You can make recommendations, tell people what you think they're going after right now, and say, "Yeah, I got this stuff right here," and work with people. I think that's real important. One of the things that I'm going to be doing, Gary, is as I do these interviews and as I talk to these different people and different groups, I actually have the Virginia Bass Federation, talk to the president there. I'm going to be doing an interview with him. And I also have a group that fishes smallmouth up in Northern Virginia and up in Maryland, that they take kids on float trips. And, obviously the Ned rig is the ticket when we're catching them smallmouth. So what I want to do is also start connecting you with those people so that maybe you can turn around and say, "Hey, especially the group that takes the kids on the float trip to catch smallmouth. What an opportunity for you to sit there and say, 'Hey, I'll send up 2 or 3 bags of assorted Ned rigs for these kids to use.'" And then again, it's just kind of broadening, your output and your network to other people to continue to grow. So I want to do that. I want to help you grow. I want to continue to use your baits and recommend you to other people so that these other groups contact you and we see what we can do. Are you looking at getting I know you're doing the swim baits, and that's going to be real important coming up after the pre-spawn. I'm a finesse guy, so I like the drop shot and where's my camera? The old shaky head.
Yep.
Love that. I also, I'm getting into a little bit of other techniques like I'm no pro, I'm still learning stuff, but a couple other things I'm getting into the Carolina rig and the Texas rig. I think the Carolina rig is going to be really good this year, especially where we fish in the reservoirs, where we can cast along those grass lines. For Carolina rig, do you recommend your trick worms, or do you recommend a stick bait, or maybe your beaver style bait? What would you use on a Carolina rig running around?
Well, I mean, everyone will use like a lizard, but I mean, you can't go wrong with like a trick worm, or it's kind of unconventional, but especially around here, like the fish are used to seeing the same exact thing. Like, got to think out of a box. Even a ribbon tail, like that's something that a lot of people won't think about. Like, this is an electric blue ribbon tail that the CEO, aka my 7-year-old, and I, we just came up with this along with my wife. And like, it's something different. You can't go wrong with the beaver bug. This, like, think outside the box a little bit, give the fish something, or even like you said, like, even the trick worm, like these trick worms are so versatile. You know, you can use them for almost any technique.
Yeah.
You just, if you need to trim them, you trim them a little bit.
Yeah, exactly. I love the trick worm. I love your trick worm for running on a drop shot. But I'll tell you what, where I was successful with this last week was using a trick worm wacky. Instead of just a stick bait, it kind of gave it a different profile. A stick bait's just going to kind of do this all the way down. But this trick bait where you have the bigger tail on it, and the flexibility in this really kind of changed that profile as it was moving through the water. I also turned around and I rigged it a little bit different, where I rigged it wacky closer to the head up here. So I had more of this because it's so much more pliable than just a regular stick worm. So this was moving around a whole lot more in the water. And, I had another guy with me and I taught him how to fish a wacky worm, and we were using your stick baits. And yeah, the green pumpkin red flake, I need more of them. Green pumpkin red flake. Yeah, that was tearing them up. That was really, really tearing them up. And I had some of the black and blue from you also that I was using that was very successful. And I was using a stick bait. I think I was using, I don't know, I think I was using maybe a Yum Dinger stick bait. And it was after I got snagged up and had to cut off and retie, and I threw on a Yum Dinger and nothing. I wasn't getting squat. I turned around and I grabbed your bag again and I put on your trick worm and I started catching them again right away. So it was just a different profile, I think. And like you said, switch things up, Carolina rig, try different things. That ribbon tail worm, yeah, that looks like that might be something very different that's going to present a different profile with a different color. One of my other videos, David, I mentioned that out there at Hunting Run, where we fish a lot, it's a great fishery, and everyone was throwing green pumpkin and black and blue. And I just decided I'm throwing something different. So I grabbed that silly color from Z-Man, that Twilight, that pink and purple thing, and I just crushed them all year. So again, if someone thinks out of the box, well, you got that, you got the pink ones, right? You got any of the pink ones sitting right there?
Yep, ironic too.
So here you go, folks. You can either turn around and go to the store and grab, I kind of like that because yours are a little bit more translucent than that. But there you go. There's a trick worm. And look at his. It's the same thing. It's the same thing. So support your local guys, because I'll tell you what, you're hard pressed to find any of these in a store right now. You can't find them. Everyone wants them. They're all sold out. But they're all sold out. But someone called you to get some of these pink trick worms. They're going to get them in short order. So, yeah. So, Gary, this has been great. Like I said, you and I talk all the time. And I think what you're doing is fantastic. And I like that you reach out and you support different organizations and things like that. And for everyone watching, go on Facebook and find Gary, or look up DAC Baits and get a hold of him. Follow the link that I'm going to put in the description and get a hold of him, and he will make you some stuff. His stuff is good enough to go in a store, and it's good enough to catch fish. And I've proven that. So Gary and I both proved it. Even in that second tournament that we fished, again, I threw on some of Gary's baits, those trick worms, and it did the ticket. It did the trick, So yeah, I like using his baits. They're just as good as anything that you're going to buy in a store. and you're supporting a local guy. So, hey, Gary, I really appreciate this. I appreciate your time and what you do here. So really cool, buddy.
I appreciate it, Marty.
All right, man. So yeah, again, everyone, get a hold of this guy. Let's do this. All right. Thank you. Have a great night.
Thanks, you too.